Southeast Asia, into Indonesia, Malaysia, and so forth. We have to do that, and there are ways to do that. And I think that was something that President Trump wanted to do in his first term. Maybe this time around, he'll have a way to do that. Tariffs are a big problem. People say, well, we have to punish these people. Well, we have to punish China. Let me tell you, I was reading through something today, and what really struck me as important was this statement. China's exports to the global south and BRICS countries in March reached a seasonally adjusted.
Now they're leveraging years of expertise in data center and cloud management into high-performance computing through a partnership with NVIDIA. Join Bitdeer in reshaping the world of Bitcoin mining. Learn more at bitdeer.com and explore how they are pioneering the future today.
One thing that I hear you touch on is the fact that one of our issues is we are not one of the net producers of the world. The only thing we really produce now is debt, whereas these other countries, they're producing commodities, they're energy powerhouses. And we have gone more in the direction of just financializing our entire economy, which has crushed the middle class. So what is this financial Armageddon that you see, and how's it going to play out?
Well, first of all these conflicts, these are just sapping our strength. They're wasting our time, money, and energy. We're not living in 1900. This is not the era of gunboat diplomacy. We've got to get out of this business of intervening all over the world in other people's affairs. It's just not, it's unaffordable. We can't sustain it. We don't want it. And we're creating new enemies. But the first thing we need to do is we've got to say, where are we going to focus our efforts? Energy is absolutely number one. Donald Trump understands that. Energy is critical. And everybody says, well, that's right. We'll just get going really, really fast. We'll start fracking and we'll start this and that and everything else. Stop a minute and think about something. How many refineries do we have in the United States? When's the last time we built any new ones? How many drilling platforms have we recently started and opened? And things. These are the big projects that a future president needs to invest in. And I hear nothing like that. Yeah. It's so depressing to me. That's what we need to focus on. We need to get out of the Middle East. We need to get out of Europe. These people have been there for thousands of years. Long before we showed up. They'll be fine. Let them sort it out. We need to come home and start focusing on what happens here. If we do these things, it'll take a decade or more, but we will once again be what we were just 50, 60, 70 years ago, the leading economic power in the world.
That sounds like a productivity miracle that no one wants to actually spend money on. But speaking of money, all roads lead to the money printer. They're just going to continue to debase the currency.
Republic, how many generals have you got? Oh, I've got 44 generals. We're powerful. We don't have anybody to fight, but we've got 44 generals. The same thing is true across the boards in the federal bureaucracy. And I think President Trump has said on more than one occasion, we've got to get rid of the Department of Education. We've got to get rid of, I think the Department of Agriculture needs to go away. That we were a country that at the time we founded the Department of Agriculture in the early part of the century, it was necessary to manage the massive production of food and so forth. That's not required anymore. I don't think we need a Department of Energy. Now, how do you get to the point where you can dismantle and liquidate these bureaucracies? Crisis.
Wallets, none are better than the Cold Card. You can verify the source code, it's ultra secure, and it's easy to use even if you're a beginner. Head to their site in my show notes and get a 5% discount with promo code CoinStories. And finally, are you ready to take control of your wealth? The Bitcoin Way is here to empower you. Learn how to take full self-custody and eliminate all counterparty risk. Set up your node and become the master of your own transactions and enjoy true autonomy. And upgrade your cybersecurity and protect your online privacy like I did. The Bitcoin Way specializes in personalized one-on-one training to help you become.
We've done a reasonably good job. He left us without this tremendous debt. He pulled us out of a terrible recession. He cut back on defense expenditures, reoriented the Defense Department. He built the nuclear deterrence force that we have, ground-based, air-based, and naval-based. And he avoided war. Gosh, pretty good record. So what's most important? Is it the domestic political experience that everybody comes to Washington with? I leave it to your audience to determine that. So that's the answer to your question.
Okay, that's really interesting. Just to wrap up, if President Trump goes into office with these promises to, bring in people like Robert F. Kennedy,
He said, if you want to be a successful president, be a good butcher. And Kennedy was taken aback and couldn't understand what he meant. He said, if you can't fire people and remove people, then you better damn well find someone else to do it for you, because people will deceive you. People will be disloyal. People will fail to do what you told them to do. If you don't get rid of them, they will do you in. They will drag you down. Eisenhower was right. And of course, then in that. And they're pressing down on the gas pedal, and they are redoubling down on disaster in Gaza and disaster in southern Lebanon. But those two theaters are not working well for them. It hasn't turned out the way they'd hoped. They have not won anything. They have sacrificed a lot of life and equipment and people and resources. So now they're turning their attention to Iran, because in Israel for many years, there was always this insistence that everything that's wrong in the region, everything we don't like, begins in Tehran. They believe that. That's an article of faith. I don't agree with that, but it doesn't matter what I think. I'm not an Israeli. That doesn't bode well for the Israeli position. So the only thing that Mr. Netanyahu's got left, and his supporters, is to bring us in. And we will be involved in a war that is not just Iran, but is also going to involve Russia. And behind Russia stands China. And the other interesting part of this is that all the countries in the region, Muslim countries around the world in general, but the countries in the region have all now finally turned against Israel. Jordan, which is extraordinarily dependent upon U.S. and British money to survive and sustain itself. I don't think that we or the Russians would turn to nuclear weapons, but I do fear what the Israelis might do. And that then would precipitate something from the Iranian side, and ultimately that would engage us and the Russians. So it's a prescription for real trouble.
Well, some of this sounds absolutely, terrifying. So I like to end things, and every conversation we've had has ended with a note of hope. So let's try to wrap all of this up in something that the viewers can take away and feel good about, right? I mean, what do you want people to know? This is a very consequential.
So that much I would do. And otherwise, I always tell everybody there's an old statement. Years ago when I lived in Europe, and then when I was an exchange student in Germany, I would visit Cistercian monasteries along a line that went up through central Germany, going back into the 7th and 8th centuries. Literally, this was the edge of Christianity. And it then moved, by incrementally east, further and further east. And when you go into these monasteries,